whatever. I don't, like, who gives a crap? Close enough. Give me 1 second.
Yay.
Hello.
Oh, see? See? We work on furry standard time. People slowly trickle in.
Exactly.
Now the doors just open. They're like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to chill out.
No, they're down here.
I'm in the front of the class, and I'm
Welcome to Volunteering in a Stupid Manner 101. The lessons of never volunteering from a military furry. We'll start in just 1 second. As a staff lead, operations lead, I give notes to my crew like, hey, I'm off duty right now. All right, so yeah, it's 7 o'clock. We'll get this ball rolling. My name's Jake Bunny. I am I've been flying for 22 years. I got my pilot's license when I was 14. Currently I have flown for commercial airlines and currently fly for a company that flies BBJs. It's a big business jet. It makes the little tiny ones seem silly. Goal of, and we have?
I'm Orion.
Okay.
I am currently a student pilot, and I actually got pulled up right now. I've got about only 35, not even a half hours. But I'm basically in the process of working towards my student pilot, not my student pilot, shoot, my private pilot certificate, and I'm eventually working my way up through the ranks to do essentially what Jake does for a living. So
Yeah. So I like to run this panel like in 2 ways. He's new to going through the school program, and when I went through it, I'm super old, so it's changed quite a bit. So you get a perspective if you have any questions about flight school. As a commercial pilot, I've flown pretty much anything from puddle jumpers across the Caribbean to flying pipeline gear in Alaska to flying private jets, and then flying big fancy buses. But we have an opportunity where you can ask us questions, and if you're just aviation fans, we can just you can tell us about your experiences. So it kind of goes both ways. So what I'll do is I'll offer, we can go across you guys and tell us why you're here, if you just want to listen, or if you got a story to share or interest, or we can start with Q&A with us, because that's basically what this panel's about. We're nerds about aviation, or just have a general interest, and we're just here to talk about that general interest, or ask questions. How's that sound?
Great.
So what would you like to do first? Introduce yourselves. Let's start with you.
I'm Simon.
Yep.
I don't really know what else to say.
That's fine.
I have an interest in aviation, and I'd like to learn to fly, but
You've come to the right place, because if you have questions, if you do,
that spark starts as a flame, I can guarantee you, and I love your shirt, by the way.
yes, that is
we
dope.
actually just made it.
That's great. I love it. Remove before flight.
Oh, yes.
Yes. We're going down the line of people, if they choose to, if you'd like to hear stuff, or you can skip, by the way, you don't have to. And you can explain if you just have a general interest or what brought you to the panel. So you're next. I know who you are.
Sweet. I'm Bandrick. I'm from a aviation family, so my dad's a pilot. My brother just got his private pilot's license like 4 days ago. So everyone's looking at me next. So when I have the time and the finances,
And what kind of aircraft are in your hangar?
tail drag. So Boeing Stearman. By
Oh my gosh.
It gets better. Keep going.
Yeah, let's see here. And that's got a helicopter. So that's R-44 Robinson.
Yep.
And his dream project he's working on is a P-40.
Oh, now that's happening. That's
World War II
awesome.
fighter plane.
And they just started up the engine, and it started up pretty good, but it's being rebuilt from the ground up. I mean, it is a complete 99.9% restoration project, and this is year 3, and it's still going and going.
It will never end. All right, we're gonna go down the line. How about you, boss?
Hopefully, eventually, going to try to take private pilot's license, or at least sport pilot minimum. Get into more, paramotors.
Yeah.
Definitely, eventually.
Very cool. Very cool. You?
I'm Wire Fox. Just for a general interest, I keep getting surrounded by all kinds of people who fly and are involved in aviation all over the place. One of my coworkers is building a replica World War I aircraft.
There's a death wish.
And, you know, it was oddly enough that, you know, he was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to be working with, you know, he was trying to describe, you know, like the fabric materials for it, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I used that. I built a project before we had to do the heat shrink fabrics and all this stuff. And he's like, I need you in my hangar.
I'm going to build an engine out of a Rector set. I'm going to use some toothpicks and some tissue paper, and I'm building a World War I plane.
Yeah, that's
I like the guy.
Right? If you'd like to, or you can skip. Introduce yourself if you'd like.
I'm mostly, I become a plane addict in some games. That's mostly how they work.
Yeah, that's usually what starts it. You know, you get that addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. If you'd like to, otherwise you can say skip.
I am the opposite of all your pilots.
Uh-oh.
I'm the person who has to deal with things when you break it.
Oh.
So yeah, I'm working on my A&P right now. I just have the college education. I need to get in the work hours. Right now though, I'm working as a simulator technician. So basically what I do is I babysit the flight simulators for Purdue. I have been working on the Hawker 800XR simulator by Flight Safety.
Yep.
Right now, I'm starting to work with the base parts of the simulator. They deal more with audio, but the past week or two has been focused mainly on what we call this 9A10. So that deals with the onboard cabinets, focusing on the PFD displays.
That's awesome. I work for a company that builds simulators for Boeing. So I go and I qualify the Boeing sims, and then I teach people how to fly the 737 MAX on those sims. So I kind of got an idea what you do. That's pretty cool. It's dope. Yes, I know the MAX. It's been interesting 4 years dealing with that thing.
We're starting up a Part 142 program at Purdue. We're trying to. Anyway, long story short, me fix things that keep pilots safe.
Which is awesome.
Yes.
For those just walking in, we're kind of introducing, because this is like a very interactive, we're all just kind of hang out and bounce off stories and such. Because I saw a lot of people walk in, higher speaking. Commercial pilot and current student, so you get like two perspectives, because it's been a long time since I've been to flight school and they changed some stuff. Lucky I didn't have to go through all that. So we're going through from the front to back and introducing ourselves, like what our general interests are. And if you wish to skip and not say anything, that's totally fine. So I believe you're next on the leg, yeah.
Yeah. I'm Neapolitan. I'm just here to support my friend Orion.
Hey!
The only sort of like experience I have about planes is I've been to the Fort Wright Pat Air Force Museum.
Yeah.
That place is amazing. I love seeing all the different planes and stuff. It's more of just finding them interesting rather than having it be a hobby of mine.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
I am their second youngest tour guide they've ever had.
Really? That is really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I may have way too much of an obsession with the B-58 Hustler and the XB-70. So that's really, really cool. Thank you for coming. If you'd like, you can introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Jaren or Shadow. I have liked planes for a very long time, and my mom does not like the fact that I want to fly planes, but I don't care.
Take that, Mom.
You whip out the six-figure paycheck.
Right.
So,
I never got that.
what I've just been doing is I decided to start doing some simulator games like DCS and stuff. So, yeah, my favorite planes are probably the F-14, F-16, and Mirage 2000.
The big players in DCS, yep. Yeah, that's cool. I have a company that I run that actually we use DCS to help with the Air Force. So we set up DCS for the United States Air Force. I have my own sim company, and we use retired pilots that give feedback. We build sim pits for the United States Air Force, actually technically Air National Guard, and we use the DCS to integrate that with VR. It's been a fun program.
Oh, nice.
I really am a terrible dogfighter. I am the worst. That's awesome. So we'll go next if you'd like to.
That's all right.
That's totally fine, not a problem. Would you like to introduce yourself? Blue shirt? No?
Me?
Yeah.
The only flight cruise I ever had was flying the Cessna once.
Was it fun?
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome.
I went to a flight school, paid them $100, went up, I taxied, took off, went up, went down, left, right, said okay, like cross off my bucket list.
Yeah, that's the fun part of when people like when I get my students in, they're expecting just to be like taken up just once, just barely kind of even like just kind of sitting in there. I'm like, okay, take her off, let's go. Like, what? I don't know. That's very cool. Would you like to say anything?
I'm with him.
Simple enough, right? That's awesome. No
I'm
problem.
more interested in World War II planes.
Very cool. That's awesome. Well, welcome. It's all aircraft here, except for ultralights. Get out of here.
Flying in cans.
What's that?
Flying in cans.
Right? No kidding. Jeez.
LSAs, you gotta give credit to them for not having a medical certificate required for this.
Yeah. Would you like to introduce yourself at all? Yeah.
I fly with Army Flying Activity. I own a Cessna 152.
152-2 Aerobed?
Every pop hole in the sky.
So that was my first plane that I bought myself. And I had a 152-2 that was a very interesting kit. We had tip lights. It was always fun because every time we came to an approach, I remember one time I was telling just a rampy that was coming in. He's like, well, when are you coming in? I'm like, I'm on final. Like, bro. He's like, well, there's a jet in finals. Are you behind him? I'm like, no, that's me. Because we'd light up so much. Because there's really bright tip lights. I'd turn them off. Like, oh, you couldn't see the plane. They were so bright. So yeah, fun little plane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Take it anywhere. All right, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Zorjak. When I was a kid, I actually had a chance. It kind of fell through to get a pilot's license. Something I'd still like to do if I could ever afford it.
Do it. I mean, even I'll give you a tip on that one because I hear that all the time, and I always mean that becomes such a speed bump for people. But I'll get back to you. You in the NASA shirt?
I have an ungodly amount of time in sims such as X-Plane 11, FSX, DCS, probably the biggest one, massive aviation enthusiast, and for legal reasons, I allegedly got to fly a C-130 for about 10 minutes.
There you go. Awesome. That's really cool. Well, you're in the right place for that. That's really cool. Goggles? Or am I missing something?
So I'm currently in a school course to graduate with an aviation degree from Microsoft Flight Simulator. So that's jokes aside, my grandfather. My grandfather was a paratrooper, so he was on planes all the time during World War II. Paratrooper. So that's kind of cool. It's kind of like in my family. I don't know, planes are cool. I mean, that's why I bought these goggles. This is cool. It's just an interest. It's not gonna fit. It's just an interest.
Yeah, that's really cool. Very cool. And I didn't see you came in here. Do you want to introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, I'm Taylor Bannock, and I'm here to support me.
This young man had an unfortunate experience of working with me for 2 years. So every time a plane would go over,
It ain't going anything.
I don't care what we're doing, we have to stop, and I have to identify it. Well, that's awesome. It looks like we got a really good group of some cool, passionate people. It's really, really neat. So this is basically kind of one of those situations, like I said, we're a flight captain. We can do a QA thing, or you can share more stories, or if you want to talk about some flight school stuff. I will start it with, I heard that, like back there, a lot of people come up the whole, I don't have all the money thing. A big misconception, and a lot of people have this misconception, not everybody, is that they always have to go to a flight school and pay it all up front. It took me 3 years to get my PPL, private pilot's license, because I was literally mowing lawns as a kid. And the tip I always give people is when you start your flight school, always do your discovery flight. That's where you pay like 100, 125, depending on the flight school, where you get to go up and experience the flight. And even though I have had many people come up to me and be like, I know I want to fly, I totally want to fly. Get up in the airplane, like, you know what, this plane isn't for me. But for those who go up in the plane, like, oh yeah, I want more of this. I tell them right away, go buy a logbook and go get your medical cert right at the back. So you get your logbook, you get your medical certificate. And the thing is that if you do like the smaller flight schools, you're not like obligated to absolutely go to a program where you have to pay it all pay it all up front, or even get a loan where you're paying it later. Like what I did was I went to this flight school in a small town I grew up, and I just pay by the hour. And for like an entire summer, I did like only 5 or 6 hours, because I was literally mowing lawns. I wasn't making a lot of money. But then I had to take a break for a while. But as long as you have a logbook, that time counts. Like you can even start just a few hours, and you can come back like 6 years. Those hours count. They might do a flight with you just kind of make sure what you remember, but those hours count. And if you ever have to take a break, whatever, or if it's a slower pace than what some people get to speed through.
I don't want to count that mine speeding through, to be honest with you, because actually I'm in pretty much almost the same boat that you were in. Because there's 2 parts. There's part 141, which is a bit more rigid structured. It's kind of that thing. Yes, as Jake is doing, this is actually what I'm in most of the time, or Skyhawk 172s. The school that I'm at is based out of Batavia, Ohio. Funny enough, it's actually the home of Sporty's Pilot Shop.
A few free flight nerds, Sporties, who provide all the geekery stuff.
Yeah, so long story short, kind of in the same boat that Jake is. I am not forking a bunch of money up front when I do my lessons and whatnot. It's basically paid by the hour. I pay a certain amount for the aircraft itself, and I'm actually flying like super, super, super bare bones most of the time. Literally, I got a 6-pack instrument cluster in front of me, a transponder, and a radio. That's it. It's mostly a bare bones 1978 172 Model N, but that's basically all you really need to get started. And one of the big things that I can definitely emphasize with the whole financial thing is like what Jake was saying, is that he basically did as much as he could per the time that he was able to do it. That's the same thing I do. I work a full-time job Monday through Friday, and then I do 2 lessons on the weekends, on Friday evenings and then on Sunday about noonish. Kind of allows a little bit of a difference in the atmospheric conditions and whatnot, because conditions in the weather can be different in the evening as they are at noon. And there have been plenty of times where I've gone up and it's been really choppy, and then there have been other instances where I've gotten up there and it's been as calm as glass, and it's really, really, it allows you a bit more of a challenge. Like I was telling Jake a little bit beforehand, I actually just finished, the way that our school does their training is they divide it into 3 stages. Your first stage is more or less just a general, hey, here's the fundamentals, here's the basics of how to actually fly one of these things. And then as you progress through that, you get more experience and get more comfortable and get more used to things. As somebody who also, unfortunately, deals with bouts of motion sickness, I'm not going to lie. I had one of those, I had that moment the first time that my instructor took me up. By the time I got ready to come back, he had to be the one to do all the flying and the landing, because unfortunately I did not do a discovery flight. I was one of those where I actually had an aha moment last year, and it was one of those instances where I was like, I love what I'm doing right now, but I feel like I want to do something better for myself, and I want to actually do this. And like a lot of you were saying, you're into the simulators and all that stuff, like Flight Simulator X, or now Flight Simulator 2020, P3D, or X-Plane. That's where I got a lot of my interest. Was at a young age playing like Flight Simulator 2004, Flight Simulator X when it first came out with the DVD. Now I feel old too. So
I've shown you pictures of me running Flight Simulator from '84, Flight Simulator 1.0.
Yeah. So effectively, that spark that a lot of you are saying is drawn by the simulators and whatnot. If you are of the individual that like, hey, I want to see about doing more with this, then that is definitely a reason to hold on to that interest and that drive, because it's something that could potentially blossom into something that's really, really fun and exciting. And with me actually just finishing a retake for my first stage check just literally a few days ago, and I passed. Basically was just landing stuff, because one of the big things that this has actually also helped me as a person just outside of flight is it's okay to screw up and make mistakes, because if you use it as a learning tool, then you learn better from messing up. And there is no perfect pilot. They're always.
Excuse me. I had to.
Okay. The common phrase you'll hear from a lot of like aviation YouTubers and whatnot is a good pilot is always learning. That's why flight is one of at least it's said, that it's definitely one of the safest forms of travel, because Jake can say for a fact that he goes through hundreds and hundreds of hours of training. I'm in the process of it. I'm already at 34 and a half, and I'm working my way up. By the time I get to where Jake is with ATP and everything, I'll have hundreds, if not thousands. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. And the other thing about this industry that's really cool is the possibilities are endless. I could do instructing if I want to. I can get my CFI certificate or CFII and be able to go where I'm currently at with school and be one of their instructors in the future. I could go commercially, I could go privately. The possibilities are endless. So that's one of the things I look at. But in terms of the whole, I can't afford it, I've been there. When I first started, actually back in March, it was well before March, back in January, I mentioned to my family, I was like, I want to do this. I want to make this decision for myself. I actually visited my school in September of last year. And basically, it then came to the question of, oh shoot, I have to get all this equipment before I can even start. And my folks were like, we want to see you succeed. We will do the best that we can to help you out there. However, all the flight, actual training and whatnot, paying for things and whatnot, that's all been on me. My folks helped me to a certain extent, and then they basically said, okay, we got you here, now it's your turn to try to keep things going the best that you can.
I got my high performance endorsement, and then I got my multi-engine, and then I joined the Army thinking, hey, they'll pay for my flight school, and when I finished my term, two things they didn't pay for at the time, veterinary school and flight training. 6 years out the gate.
Oh no!
So I went down my aerospace degree, but it was just, that was kind of funny. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna finish this out. It's super expensive to do the last part. You're like, yeah, we don't pay for that.
See, and also, like what Jake was saying, is you don't have to go through a very fancy program in order to make this actually stick. You could go to a regular, small flight school. Mine just happens to be just slightly larger because it's known for both the school and also for Eastern Cincinnati Aviation and the pilot shop, and of course Furries has a bazillion other facets of itself that don't even go down that road. But I mean, it's one of those things where you pay as you go, unless you're in certain situations where they actually do also run the pilot program for the University of Cincinnati, the professional pilot program out of them. And I could have gone down that road, but I already have my bachelor's. And when I was talking to one of the customer service folks up there, they basically said it would be more money doing stuff that I don't really need for what I'm wanting to try and achieve. So they actually said it's better to just go directly into the flight school itself as opposed to going through like a collegiate program per se. So it works out in the end for me at least.
I did a similar thing. Actually, when I went to Atlantic University, which now has been absorbed into Florida State University, to get, at the time, Atlantic University required their students to go through a flight school program while they studied their other degree. And when I came in, they're like, you already have a multi-engine, you already have your PPL, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, do you have an ATP program? They didn't, but they modified a program to where I could take my ATP while I was taking schools. There's a lot of weird, cool options that I didn't even know that existed. And that was a really cool opportunity for me to do. So I scammed the Army out of paying for it anyways. So they didn't know. They're like, all right, I was paying to become an aeronautical engineer, but the school required flight training for all students. So like you had to do the program at the same time. So if you do some research, there are a lot of really cool options you may or may not be exploring. Wow, this room's really filling up. See, we started with 3, and now the room's exploded. It's very, very cool. Let's give an opportunity to Q&A just in case.
Yes.
So does anybody have any questions or anything want to bring? Yeah.
All right. This might sound a little weird. You said discovery. Okay, my mother is 92, and she has always wanted to learn how to fly.
Yeah.
But she always thought, but she figured it was too expensive. How would we get her?
So literally, where are you from?
She lives in Livonia, Michigan.
So there's several small flight schools. There's actually a glider club outside of Livonia. There's a lot of really great options. You just literally Google flight school and look for the ones that are based on U of M, because they're going to come up first. And then look for a local flight school and call them up and say, hey, what's the rate for a discovery flight? Okay. I know it sounds silly, but it's literally that simple, because every school does it. Every school does a discovery flight. Okay. Every little flight school, every little small little flight school, and they'll tell you it's this much for the instructor and this much for the flight time per hour for fuel and such. And it can be legit, kind of depends on school and what they use as an aircraft to do it in. It could be anywhere from $75 to, I've seen the highest I've ever seen is 180. So, so that's a good start. So if you just want to at least get her in a plane and get that experience, maybe not the whole classes, maybe that could be explored later. 92 would be interesting, but it's all about as long as you pass the med cert, But to get that discovery flight, you don't need a med cert. I mean, you have an instructor in the airplane, almost anybody can fly. I mean, blind people go up sometimes.
I've done it.
I've
actually done it.
Yeah, exactly.
I literally can't even get a license to drive, and I've done it. I've actually done discovery flight too.
Yeah. I have clients who they know they, for whatever reason, won't pass the medical, but they'll pay for the chance to go up there and they get a little bit of instruction, and I'm there, and they get the chance to do some flying around. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Excellent. I know it sounds silly, just Google it, but but again, try to avoid the ones that the university ones. Just look for like a local at a small airport. There's a lot around you. And if I can recommend a glider flight, one will scare the crap out of you, it scares the crap out of me. Also, you're talking about motion sickness. I'm afraid of heights. So figure that one out. It was part of me trying to combat my fear of flying, but a glider flight is a kind of cool gift idea, kind of experience, because you get there towed by a plane, you have an instructor behind you, and when they release that, in a glider you're practically laying down, and the canopy comes down to like below your hip level, so you kind of get the sense, there's nothing in front of you, so you get the sense of like, it's so cliche to say, that it's like, you kind of feel like a bird, because you literally have nothing around you. The wings are so far back, there's no sound, it's an amazing experience. That's something you might want to explore too. I highly recommend, if it's just gonna be like a one flight thing, maybe explore that. It's tons of fun. It's really, really cool. So
I'm texting
It's
you
air
now.
conditioned, right?
sick. Was that?
It's air conditioned, right?
Yes. So the air conditioning system on a glider is a 4 by 6 inch piece of plastic you slide open, and if it's too hot, you just get a little faster.
Contrast to bleed air.
Right? Yeah. Bleed air from a glider. Figure that one out.
Exactly.
That's a funny. For those who didn't get that joke, jet engines, they compress air to create thrust, and sometimes there's extra air. We use that to power other systems in the airplane, and we call that air that's used to power other systems bleed air, and it's what powers the air conditioning units. But a glider, which has no engine, won't have bleed air.
Except for the 787, it does not use engine bleed air for the attack.
It's true. I mean, it can though.
Put a battery in it.
I mean, it can. So that's when I get to the trading.
When with Cessnas, you get swamp coolers.
Yes, I've seen some swamp coolers and Cessnas.
They actually sell those.
Yes.
I saw them. I'm like, okay, that's new.
I learned on a 1963 Grumman Tiger, which is a small two-seater, has a bubble canopy. So I learned in Texas during a drought, and literally in the cockpit, we'd temp the cockpit to 130, 140 degrees. So you open the bubble, and you'd be taxiing with the thing open. And we lay PVC pipe and just jam the PVC pipe into like a periscope kind of shape, shove the bubble on it, and try to get some blown air on us because it's so hot, that stupid thing. So that was like a punishing experience. Do you have any other questions? Some good stuff. No one. You're all embarrassed. Come on. Any good stories? We're here to share. We're all here to hang out. Nothing again.
I mean, actually, I'm more up on the ground side of things as well.
Yeah.
Most of my interest. I don't know if you had any idea, but most people would start off with kind of getting into aviation mechanics and stuff like that. Doing any.
Hey, aviation mechanic, got any advice? I break them.
I hate to root for my own university, but it's required by law. There are a lot of A&P programs, that being the airframe and power plant certificate. Some businesses will not hire you without it. It's just one piece of key certification that they will strive for. And there's two ways of really getting it. There's with real life experience, you'll have X number of years of airframe experience, X number of power plant experience, or both, etc. And then there's not flight schools, but basically A&P programs that run out of common universities. I know that Ivy Tech has one, and then Purdue also has it as a minor option. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm working with what we call an AET, which is an aeronautical engineering technology student. We have pretty much everything that the A&P program does not have. Basically, at least with Purdue, their program is you'll have this minor, you'll take it for 2 years, you pass an exam, and then you have your A&P. It's at least is the jargon, the sort of gimmick. But with that certificate and with a college education, you're pretty much unstoppable. The only other thing that I would recommend is your welding certificate. If you get a certified welding certificate, because nearly every single, at least general aviation aircraft, that being, for people who don't know, lighter aircraft like your Cessna, the exhaust manifolds and the exhaust system in general requires a lot of welding, and that can actually be a pretty well-paying job. But again, that requires airframe and power plant certificate.
I've got advice from that one. If you go that route, like if you want to add welding on that, military. Because they have a program that once you're out, you already have the qualifications for it, but you just tell them, you tell your CSM, I want to take a welding class, and you're off for a week, and you take a welding class, and it's a really, really good one, and then you take your recurrency, and as a tank commander in the Army, and he's right, the welders, having that tacked on top of it is like,
right.
He's right. You have that. It's the world's your oyster. Like they're like, oh, you weld too? Snap! Like they'll probably kick somebody else out of the hangar to get you in.
There's a university and a technical school that run out of the airport here. I don't remember the name, but
There's quite a few technical. I mean, you have Vincennes University, one of the biggest.
Vincennes is the college one. I don't remember the technical.
There's dozens. There's a lot here in Indianapolis for you. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much. It took me by surprise because one of my friends who has done Civil Air Patrol since high school.
Nerd.
He was just like, he just like jumped out of nowhere. It's like, oh, you like working on things. You work on all this stuff like that. It's like you can jump in these programs like without any any training or anything like that, and like that you can just get started in that. And I'm just like, really? Like, I always thought like you just had to get like big, huge, long section of schooling, and then you can start touching, the plane, and they'll actually trust you there. But yeah, I never actually looked into the real career path for it.
Well, there you go.
Somebody told us 747 to go around.
All right, how many nerds can name the model type? Other than the 747, which version?
400.
Oh, what'd you say?
400.
Yep, that's correct. Even though the model's not correct. Your data record doesn't have the winglets.
Yeah.
Also not services.
What was that?
Because it's Qantas.
It is Qantas. But I always cracks with the models like, come on, man, no winglets? Bro.
If you guys also want some entertaining look at the flight path of the last Qantas 747 flight, they did the entire logo over the Pacific Ocean, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I worked for my company. Did it with the BBJ. We were the first 737 MAX BBJ, so we got to do BBJ across the United States. And I had to be in that flight. That was kind of fun. Got a question back there?
Not really a question.
Or I'm sorry, comment?
Yeah, I recently saw the video comparing like the first Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Oh yeah.
It's just so crazy how far we've come with those graphics.
What's
the first one had like only a few polygons, and now it's like photorealistic. You're taking pictures and models of actual buildings. It's just so crazy.
What's been really fun is I have been working with Microsoft on a lot of people. If you don't know, I've been a professional race car driver for many, many years. I currently do racing with Lamborghini and so on and so forth. I've been in Chrysler. I worked for Ferrari for 7 years. Flying was like a side job. Like, this the fun stuff doesn't work out. I guess I'll go back to flying. But where are they going? Oh, simulator. So I worked for Microsoft's Turn 10, who makes Forza Motorsport, and then they unfortunately learned how much of a nerd I am. And then I was brought into when Asobo was brought back on. They moved me over for consulting for Asobo 4 years ago when they said, hey, we're bringing back a thing. We brought back our licensing. I'm like, what thing? Oh, it involves flying. Like, so I got to do some quality consulting for Asobo. So that's been kind of a fun project. Seeing people react to it has been awesome. But as somebody who's a little aged, who first flew his flight simulator on the actual Commodore, it's come a long way. And it's still got some ways to go. We got some stuff to fix. Who's a big flight simulator user in here? I know there's a few that mentioned it, but come on, raise your hands. Let's not be shy. Even me. I love some good flight simulators.
It's my job, so.
But that's true. I mean, it's mine too as well. But
I'd like to use the opportunity to say if you are a user of X-Plane, that's what we actually use at Purdue for our Cirrus simulators, the SR20 simulators.
Yep. And Redbird uses Prepared, so it's kind of like this.
I think a lot of our equipment at my school is Redbird, so we have that. And also, they sell a lot of the Redbird alloy equipment. So yeah.
Oh no, they're dropping like flies. Take care, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah.
Are there the things to do about retiring the 747? Was this the 400s they were retiring? Everybody was retiring.
You gotta remember, it's when the confusion. Like, what makes it difficult to answer is that when you say they, it's the decision of the airlines. You gotta remember that the 8s are still flying because Korean Air bought 6 of the 8 series, and they're actually still making freighters. They still have orders for freighters, and that was what the original aircraft was designed to do. So they haven't it's up to the airline when they want to retire it. There are still 200s flying, from the 60s.
I mean, I've seen 727 still airborne.
Yeah.
I've seen tons. I mean, the fact that a lot of our airframes for the stuff at our school are from the 1970s and up. I think we've got 70s. So we've got a 78 to 74. I'd have to look at the POHs again, but I can't remember exactly what we've got a wide array because.
That's normal in GA, but
yeah,
but in commercial aircraft,
yeah.
to see them to be like a 200 from the 60s, not very common.
Okay.
There was a 727 doing zoom and boom flights at the airport during March Madness.
Yeah.
There's and we were surprised to see one rolling by.
In South America, I was ferrying this company. There's this company that remakes the Piper Pawnee ag plane, and they put more modern Rotax engines in them that run on pump gas, street pump gas. And I have to go down there to Colombia to pick up a agricultural plane.
Oh wow!
Just imagine how Customs loves that. I did that for a year. Fly these little planes across. And when I was down there, I was shocked that there's so many freight companies that are super sketchy that run really old 727 airframes on some of them even on gravel. It's that's brave. So yeah, it amazes me sometimes how old. But yeah, to answer your first question, or maybe comment on your first thing is retired. Retirement is just a judgment on whether it's making money for the airline. So yeah.
Yeah, you said civil air patrol before, and that kind of set off some really distant memories, because I think I made it to airman second or first class, which was it's a long time coming in that organization, but our squadron was a complete joke. And I just remember kind of the really bizarre things that would happen. There would be black box signals that we would pick up and have to intercept, and they would be from industrial light bulbs that were not properly installed, and they were emitting distress frequencies. There was a microwave one time in this person's house, and every time it turned on, we would see.
And the shielding failed in it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
actually
from the Gravitron, and it's just kind of really weird that those things can happen. And also, the only thing I would say about that squadron is if I crash a plane, I wouldn't want my own squadron to rescue me, because I think one time they didn't respond to an event that happened really close to us, and actually the next one over. But this is in New York. It was all in New York. It's weird.
I love that every single person that I meet who's ever been to Civil Air Patrol, all of them our squadron was bad. I'm If they're all a joke, which one's the good one?
It really is. I mean, it's one of the things that probably deserves much more support than it gets, and I mean, especially in terms of new recruits. And I mean, yeah, the physicals are hard, but if you can keep up.
Yeah, but it's hard to keep people in it when a big part of your task starting out is guarding parking lots.
Yeah, yeah, and other really like kind
It's
of
not very motivating.
grueling things, and really like only 3 years into you actually like get up in a 172 and look out for things, but a lot of it is still kind of doldrums work. So.
But it does give, on the plus side, for one of the things that Civil Air Patrol provides is access to those who may not be privileged enough to have access to even a small GA airport. It's kind of nice. Civil Air Patrol has some really cool programs for inner city youths who don't have like New York City, like they don't have the ability to go to a general airport and hang out or whatever, or really get their hand anywhere, experience close to an airplane. So even though it has its tropes, it does have some good,
Only some of them, because there was always the next squadron over, which was actually super well put together and like did not get disbanded. So
and I guarantee if I went to them, they'd be like, "Oh, we're the biggest."
Yeah, no, you're probably right. Everybody thinks that way. But, yeah.
It's a Civil Air Patrol, it's how it is. But like I said, it's got its pros and cons, just like anything. But you have fun?
Oh yeah, I had fun. The GSARs were the most fun. It's kind of like you got to go and do a big, like it was before escape rooms, it was like that in real life. Yeah. Entertainment, right?
There you go.
What we got away with in the early 2000s.
Yes, right? I started flying in the 90s, so, like, oh, man.
Right, now I feel young.
Yeah. I got my multi-engine in 98, it's funny as I joined the Army in June 7th of 2001.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a great plan. I'm going to get paid for my ATP. And then 9/11 happens, I'm like, crap. My dad was like, there's nothing going on, you'll be fine.
Well, it's sad because I still remember when I was younger, and granted, it was like, heck, 98, I was only 8 years old.
Oh, already? Come on.
Oh. No worries. But I actually remember, and it unfortunately was a result of what happened on September 11th was beforehand, actually being able to go up with family all the way up to their gates.
Yeah.
I had family that would fly in from Charlotte, and I remember, this was way back when closest international airport for me is Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International in Hebron. And they had a satellite terminal that was the Delta Comair, and you had to take a bus across the ramp to be able to get to the satellite terminal. And of course, any 8-year-old is going to be like, I get to ride on a bus and actually just watch his planes just pass me by, and I'm like, holy smokes, this is awesome. And then I look at it now, and I'm like, I'm fascinated by the simplest things, but I definitely don't regret it.
That's all. Sorry, I'm enamored by his model, and he may or may not ever get it back.
It's okay. They're all
It actually has rolling wheels.
Yes. Fun fact about that model is that November 2386 Victor is actually one of the planes that's actually at my school, and they're selling these models in commemoration, I guess, it's their 100th anniversary this year. Also, the pilot shop's 100th anniversary. So, kind of, I think that's what they did it for. Was
if you ever go to his airport and you see the sporty shop, whoever's with you, or if you go by yourself, you take your wallet out of your pocket and you put it in the glove box, you lock it, but if there's somebody with you, you give them the wallet. It has a very dangerous place.
It's fun. It's definitely fun, though, because it's a really nice airport. The facility that they have there is really, really top-notch. I feel bad for them, though. They've been trying to get seal cracking work done the last 3 days, and because the weather hasn't been cooperating back in Cincinnati, it's just an absolute train wreck, but hopefully they get it done. Also, at the same time on the airport grounds is also the Warburg Museum. I've actually had it happen plenty of times where I've been with my instructor in a small 172 and we see P-51 replicas come out. There's a bigger one, and I can't remember the freaking model off the top of my head. It's a twin, and I actually...
25 picture in this chat.
Yeah, I think...
I saw like an hour later because it was on its way to Ann Arbor. So I think that was it. Because literally as that one was taken off, and then we had the little smaller guy come out, and then there's a gentleman who works really closely with the school who has I posted another photo, and I can't remember what it was, but
he works really close with the school and actually owns a grass airstrip and actually allows the instructors to take the students out to that grass strip to practice soft field and short field takeoff and landing, because it's kind of difficult. We've got a small side grass strip at Claremont County, and actually the Warburg Museum uses it for their their Super Cup.
Yeah.
Their Super Cup model for them, I think it was World War I or World War II. It was probably, but anyways. But yeah, it's fun. He's like, I want the bigger one.
You can't put planes in front of me, okay? Bandrit.
So you're talking about flight sims. I started getting flashbacks. I remember there was this flight sim-ish game thing that was on the PC that we had as a family. I just looked it up. It was called Stunt Island.
Yes.
Did anyone here ever play that game? It was 1992, MS-DOS.
You gotta remember, Bandrit, also you and I are very
What's that?
You and I are very old.
Huh?
You and I are old.
I'm huh?
Mm.
You know about it?
Yes.
Because I...
That and like Flight Unlimited, which had a bunch of stunt planes in
Well,
it.
I was a kid when I played it, and I just wanted to go to the stars, and the plane kept saying stall. I'm like, why can't I keep going?
What is this?
I didn't understand a stall when I was a kid. It scared me so much.
I still love Pilot Wings from the original NES.
Oh,
SNES,
yeah?
SNES.
Classic.
Yes. And I didn't like the N64 one. That was pretty cool too.
I had a feeling that you'd be the only one here to know about Sun Island, and
Oh, yeah.
I was hoping for at least one more. But...
Do you have a comment or a question or anything?
No, I was just responding to him. Like, my dad used to have it on his old computer, and I played it once and crashed.
Yeah, I remember you could change your plane and change it to a duck, and you can go around and like drop eggs on people and they would explode. I remember that quite vividly.
I never did that. I just got frustrated that I couldn't figure out how to take off.
I remember that too, and I dropped the landing gear on the runway and just crashed instantly, and I'm like, oh, I found the crash instantly button.
That is what I was doing.
Yeah.
Oh, someone else knows.
Yeah,
I should have brought my Xbox.
in real life. It's very important.
Now that would have been fun. Idea for next year.
Next year I'll probably bring some flight sims in. Maybe I'll do that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, because I can bring my C64 all the way up to so and so. Okay, I'm going to play a new game. You all can get involved if you like. I'm going to go across the room again. And again, if you want to skip, you can. I'm going to go across. What did you name your favorite airplane? Oh, it's hard, isn't it? And you're the first one, so now you're like, oh shit. Shoot. Okay, come back to you. Bandrick. Isn't that a hard one?
Exactly.
It's hard for me too.
I don't know.
Okay, see? It's really hard. What's funny is the back row, they're going to be like, okay, I know, I got time to think. But it's not, you don't. NASA shirt, what's your favorite airplane? We're going to go.
Military F-15E, civilian 47800.
Look at that.
See, I can't do that shit.
Now that was impressive.
Yeah, you got it in your categories. I like that. All right, who wants to name the favorite plane next? Whoever, raise your hand. Yep. Ooh, see, that was one of my favorites.
Over here.
Probably either the Cessna or this custom plane that I watched YouTube build earlier this year with entirely 3D printed parts.
Yeah.
Aluminum frame.
Yeah.
It was terrifying.
When I was a kid, my favorite one was the stealth fighter. The
F-117.
That's it.
Okay.
I always thought that it looked cool. It was
He's got
so
a
neat.
shirt.
Yeah, that. I still think it's one of the
Love
coolest
it.
looking planes ever made.
Excellent.
I just think it's cool.
If on that subject, if you want to read a really cool book that is, it talks about some really cool aviation stuff. It's called Skunk Works. I'm sure many of you have heard of that. They're the Lockheed Martin department that worked on it still works on a lot of secret projects. But the book is pretty cool. It's not as talk about the F-117, the SR-71, but it's actually got some really cool approaches to like management. And it's written by Ben Rich, who was the director right after Jack Kelly, who founder of the Skunk Works, for the most part. Well, kind of. You'll learn the story. But the book is really, really cool. If you're a plane nerd, you're going to lose your mind over it. But what's really neat too is it really teaches some really cool management, how to run a team.
Is that it?
That is it.
Okay, looks
It's
like
written
this.
by Ben Rich. It's also on Audible. It's a wonderful book if you're like super nerdy about the background of some secret programs back in the day. I highly recommend that book. It's super rad. You should read that.
I'm interested now.
You would really get into it because
Yeah,
you're kind of like that business
that was
approach.
the coolest plane.
Yeah. Anybody else want to mention their favorite airplane? All right, the guy with the F-117. If it's not the F-117, I'm going to have questions.
It's a hard choice between the F-14 Mirage 2000. I'm going to go with the Mirage 2000.
You Frenchy little goose guy.
That's such a good plane.
Yeah, because in DCS. Awesome. Yes, thank you for stopping by. And thank you for the cool comments and questions. It's really, really cool. Yeah, what's up?
Actually, you're gonna laugh at this because it's closest to an ultralight X-Cub, like an X-Cub or X-Cub Carbon.
Oh, yeah.
With
Like
basically
anything
it's
like Piper?
skull like capability. Like
I've seen videos
of
all the different all the different characteristics of the new models of Piper Cub, and just how instantaneous they take off. I'm just kind of like, are they defying gravity right now?
You start your roll and it's boom up already. It's like I can't remember. It's like 133 foot roll for takeoff. Something stupid low. You can go. I know.
You can fly an Ambient Husky and your entire forward roll is 14 feet.
I was watching PD's channel. He's building Scrappy to do list.
Oh, that guy. So, PD, if you ever want to see a weird engineering thing, he worked with. I got to work with him a little bit on some
Really?
projects. Yeah, I don't think he sleeps.
I've kind of wondered that. Like how you run your company and do all of this.
And
Like,
a lot of people don't know is he does a lot of DoD contract stuff.
I was kind of wondering that.
But man, the stuff. If you want to see some weird engineering, what is the name of this channel?
I think it's
Well, if you look up.
Scrappy's the easiest way to look for it.
Scrappy's
That's the one he's building right now. 'Cause he flipped. What was one he flipped recently?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. It was the Wilga. Oh, Wildebeest.
It had the skeleton. Yeah, because it had this. No, Scrappy's got the skeleton. Yeah, I was trying to think of the logo was for that.
It's a good channel. Anybody got some favorite aviation YouTube channels? I can name one that really makes me sad. Anybody watch Steve-O Knievo? No one, come on.
Well, I do. The only reason why that's actually a lot of the YouTubers, not just people like
It's true.
Neo, Flight Chops.
Yeah, Flight Chops is a really good channel.
I like Flight
Getting
Chops.
a little bit into Moto Grip, but a lot of this, mostly Flight Chops and Steve-O were kind of more of the inspiration behind it, and also kind of is giving me a little bit more of an interest because also my original background actually was in film. I actually got my bachelor's in fine arts from the College of Conservatory Music at UC in their electronic media program, and I wanted to originally do like a film and video and that kind of stuff. That's why I'm actually really excited about this because, granted, obviously keeping it legal, and obviously doing the whole concept of set and forget, because you don't want to be fiddling with cameras when you're 3,500 feet in the air. But I actually do want to try and eventually start getting into like taping some of the stuff. And it might even be something as simple as when I start going out on my solo flights into the practice area, or like I'm going to ask my instructor when I do my first solo, they can put a little camera in there, but they only do like a highlight reel. And I was going to ask if, hey, they have anything against me bringing my own camera in there and having a little thing hooked up to it, because I've got family outside the state that I would like to give them a bit more of a whole experience and whatnot. So
What frustrates me with Steve-O is that he, so I used to fly caravans across the islands in the Caribbean, especially down the Keys. And I'm like, that's when the GoPro like first came out. I was like, man, I should have been filming because that's exactly where he flies like that. And I'm like, I'm watching videos, I'm like, oh man, I did that job. I flew
a lot of the stuff that they go to, and you've witnessed, you've experienced it. I unfortunately haven't gotten that opportunity yet. Oh my goodness! The views, that also Florida. Now you can easily correct me if I'm wrong. Florida is one of the busiest airspaces in the country.
What's funny, some areas like Miami, obviously, right? Palm Beach. But once you get like into the Everglades on the west side, it's dead. It's completely dead.
I gotcha.
Which is funny too because I'm deathly afraid of water, and my flight school is like, hey, we'll go to our practice area over the Atlantic. I'm like, let's not do that. I am from Indiana, and I moved to Florida, and I continue my flight training there. And like, okay, I live in Palm Beach. We'll just go on the west side of Palm Beach. And he's like, we'll fly to the Everglades. Just learn that Everglades is just still water with grass, with more crap that kills you close to the surface. And then no one will find you. Just go on Everglades.
Yeah, you're dead.
No, not like There's no
I
maintenance.
I don't blame you because that would scare the living daylights out of me as well. Our practice area is not far from an MOA.
Yep.
So we have to make sure we're staying out of Buckeye MOA. We also have to make sure that we don't.
What is an MOA? For those who may or may not know. Oh, it just went like this, didn't it?
Military operations area.
Hey! Me and the military's flying in that area.
But thankfully, I mean, I think, yeah, Georgetown is like not in there, but it's like really, really close. So you have to be very careful. But most of our practice area is just open farms because once you leave the city center in Cincinnati, it's just nothing but farmland. So,
Ohio? No.
We're like Indiana. We got nothing but fields and corn.
Lots of places to land.
Yes. Yes, and that's what I love it. The only problem is that we still have the river valley, so it kind of gets a little bit dicey. There's still lots of trees, but when you start getting out more into the open fields and farm areas, that's actually...
Or it's like Indiana's just flat. They're good anyway.
Yeah.
You gotta dodge all the meth labs too.
Actually, you might get a kick out of this. Claremont County Airport is about 2.5 hours away from here. The nearest GA field is Indy Regional, and I actually double-checked that with my section to make sure that I was actually not saying something that wasn't true. When I am airborne in Claremont County, I can even be in just a traffic pattern for India 69. There have been plenty of times where I will be flying along and I hear, Claremont County traffic, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I hear Indy Regional come over our CTAF frequency, our Common Traffic Advisory frequency. And I look at my instructor and I'm like, why is that happening? It happened the first time it happened. And he looks at me and he says, Indy Regional shares the same CTAF radio frequency on VHF as we do in Claremont County. So that just shows the power, the right atmospheric conditions. If all of the moons and stars are lined up with each other, you will hear, referencing earlier how he was saying if you go up on a discovery flight, there may be instances where during the time you'll be up there and you'll hear what you would expect to hear for your area, but then you start hearing other places and other people coming in because it's nothing but common channels that are shared by multiple places, and that's where you're constantly switching. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but once I get past First Soul, then that's what stage 2 is, starting cross country, starting to get a little bit more familiar with towered airfields because I'm in what they refer to as a pilot controlled field. We basically are just radioing to each other saying, hey, I am this little Cessna somewhere in the traffic pattern, don't hit me.
What's really fun is I fly an airplane called a BBJ, which is a 737. It's an airliner converted into like a very expensive hotel. We fly into these small GA airports, and it's kind of fun because it's very rare you get to fly a 737 into a uncontrolled airport. And it's kind of funny when you hear, Cessna entering downwind, at Warsaw, whatever, and we're in the downwind, and we're like, what's your speed? And you're like, 110 knots. Like, okay, well, we're gonna hang back a bit because we're bumping in at, 215. And they're like, what are you in? Like, we're 7.3 behind you, and we're in the pattern behind a 172. Come entering the pattern behind a 172. But you were talking about radio frequencies bouncing. I used to fly in Florida. I used to use the ADF in the aircraft to listen to AM radio from Cuba.
Oh, wow.
We got to actually wrap up here in a few minutes. But before we go, this gentleman raised their hand.
This is back to the favorite plane thing.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. Yeah. Please tell my apologies. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't really have a favorite plane now, but I used to, and it's kind of got a story behind it. And that was the B-17, because it was kind of what got me into aviation.
There's always that one that gets you in, right?
Yeah, because years and years and years and years ago, there was actually one that came to the local airport where I lived, and I actually got to go see it and get into it. It was
Sick.
really cool.
Isn't that thing cool inside?
Yeah.
See how they know where things. That's really cool. Did you have a comment you want to?
Just a side question.
Yeah.
Have you ever jumped out of a perfectly good airplane?
God, I get that question all the time.
I can't say I have. I don't know about him.
No, I have a medical condition that prevents me from it's called being a wuss.
I don't blame you. I don't want to jump out of a perfect airplane.
I actually, I have actually flown skydivers. I actually, legit, I'm not even joking when I say I'm afraid of heights. Learning to fly was a way for me to combat that fear because you're in control. You have that sense of control. Put me in a building, I'm losing my mind. But I'm not gonna, if I'm afraid of heights, I'm not gonna jump out of the airplane. so no, yeah. So it is the end of the panel because it's 8 o'clock now. I really appreciate you guys coming by and sharing your stories, sharing your love, sharing your favorite airplanes. It's really cool. I can see we got some 2 people that got to connect really good. Don't even know I'm talking to them. In their own little bubble.
I would like to say you're all wrong about the favorite aircraft. It's the B-21. You know how it got it? It's the successor to the B-2.
The Raider, yep.
How it got its name? It's the way I was explained was it's the B-2, but the next one.
Yep.
It's just the funniest name in conventions
that is a pretty funny one, guys. Seriously, it's been fun sharing the stories, and it's fun meeting you guys. And I hope you enjoyed the panel. If you have any suggestions for it, let me know. But I like to, have some fun here. So gotta wrap up. I'm part of the cleaning staff, so I get to clean. No joke. So. Like I told you, we're going to try to keep this area, this convention clean. We appreciate it. Guys, seriously, thank you for coming so much. Appreciate it.
It was a lot
Take
of fun.
care. Thank you. That means a lot.
I like
It means a lot.
I
Silver Gatoman, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gatoman, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gatoman, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.